Matthews giveth, Matthews taketh. The captain cost the Leafs in overtime. Is it too early to panic about the Buds? You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. What's going on, Dave? How we feeling coming off the weekend, pal?
Not the best.
little different from last weekend, right? A little different.
A little different. I mean, if you had asked me, and you did ask me after Monday's game how I felt pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Not feeling the greatest.
Yeah, since then it's been a rough week for the Maple Leafs since then. The Buds losing to the Bruins in overtime in quite upsetting fashion. Dave, they've now lost 3 in a row here, and similar problems just continue to kind of persist throughout these games, like similar trends. Let's break down the loss though Saturday night to the Boston Bruins. The Maple Leafs, they fought their way back into the game. They scored, brought it to overtime, and then Auston Matthews made probably, I would say, I don't even think there's really a debate, his most boneheaded play in his entire NHL career that cost the Maple Leafs the hockey game.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't think I've really seen. He may have done something. Not exactly similar, but I've seen him make plays.
Dude, I don't know what the hell he was doing. Like I guess he figured Marner was going to be there. He thought Marner was going to be there, but he was not. Marner was on his way to the bench. He didn't have a stick. So you didn't look to make sure that your partner was there. You're just going to throw a puck out in your own zone like that in overtime, 3-on-3. Like it's just carelessness, absolute carelessness, Dave.
Yeah, it was more so the turnaround and pass it. It wasn't even like he knew. It was like, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to think he is going to be there.
That's what I mean.
Like that was the baffling part, is that it's overtime. You have control of the puck. You don't need to make that play, but yet you still did.
Yeah. I mean, it was at the end of their shift. He was going to give the puck up and probably go off for a change. Just a lot about it was really, really mind-boggling. And hey, man, kudos to Stolarz for making the initial stop. But on the follow-up, they made sure they put it into the back of the net. But the Leafs, they at least get a point, little pity point against the Boston Bruins. But that's three losses now in a row, Dave. 3 losses in a row here, and like I said, it seems like they're all kind of the same at this point. Like they're not getting a whole lot of offense from anybody. Special teams the penalty kill has been fine, but they've been undisciplined. They've been taking a lot of penalties. They've spent a lot of time in the penalty box. They've taken the 7th most penalties in the NHL, and the power play is just abysmal. And they've tried a couple of different things, and nothing seems to be working. I don't really understand how you could possibly have a collective of talented individuals like that, and they can't find a way to break through. Like the last 2 teams that Toronto has faced, St. Louis had a 70% power play or penalty kill coming into the game. Boston was the most penalized team in the NHL coming into the game. Both of those spots were a chance to kind of right the ship with the power play, and it just they still could not get it going.
Yeah, well, there was the picture. I think it was Bleacher Report that did a screenshot of Marner on a 5-on-3, open net, has a chance to shoot. And he passes it.
Go ahead.
And this is where Craig Berube is talking about being direct.
Thank you.
And not being cute. But here's the thing. It's not the first time Mitch Marner has done this, and it's probably not going to be the last time Mitch Marner does this, because those habits were never corrected early on when he was doing that. When we were all talking about what does Marner like to do? Marner likes to pass those up. He doesn't like to shoot. And that's a problem, right? When you don't develop those habits right, it's hard to get those habits out of the players who have been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, that play was really like, because the 5-on-3 happened and like they were getting pressure. They were doing the right things. And when you get an opportunity like that, most other teams find a way to get their guys are shooting that puck.
Yes.
Marner.
Not Marner. No, he's gonna find a way. Domi probably would have passed it too. And like that's a problem. It's like it's just predictable. It's like, okay, let's get the puck to Matthews. Okay, well, we'll try and get the puck, into the slot, because we can't shoot from outside. We got to try and work the puck in towards the slot and get shots from in there. You can shoot from wherever the hell you have your good opportunities. And when you have a wide open net, okay, you may be at the face-off dot, but it's still a wide open net. Shoot it. All good. Don't have to funnel it into 5 feet from the net to get the shot off. If it's wide open, take it. Yeah, that was a bit of a disturbing sight to see, that still of the wide open face-off. But like, that's the thing. Like, we're talking about these 3 wins in a row, and I know the power play issues have been far before that. They've just been all season long. But you're just seeing the same thing, right? The power play is terrible. And think about it, this is a game that went to overtime. You score on that 5-on-3, right? You get that 1 extra goal. Like, at least probably win that game. They have a good chance to win that game. Like, that was a low-scoring hockey game, right? Like, I mean, it got a little higher at scoring by the end of it, but like, that was a pretty tight game, right? You score on the power play, on the man advantage at some point in that hockey game, and you probably end up winning it. And you could say that for a couple of the games this year that they've lost, but that has not been the case. And then just the carelessness with the puck, absolute carelessness with the puck. I mean, you think about a number of goals that they've been scored on this year have been off the rush. And a reason why that is because they keep giving the puck away at their own blue line or at center ice, or when they're at the blue line trying to make a play. Like, they're just giving up rush chances like no tomorrow. And it's really, really just become a pattern that has to, quite frankly, stop. Like, it's just not a good formula for winning hockey games when you're giving up a bunch of odd man rushes and rush chances like that. That's been a massive issue for the Maple Leafs.
It has been. It's because, again, it's carelessness. It's, not recognizing situations, and frankly, it's, it's details, right? Yeah. It's details. I'm sure Berube is trying to drill into them, but it's not computing. And the rush chances, the odd man rushes are definitely a problem, because again, you're on your heels. Your goalie has to maybe think a little more about what the play is going to be. And, and you're outnumbered, right? You look at, I'm trying to think of which goal it was. Was it the
Brazeau goal? Brazeau?
Yeah.
Where they give away, and then they just weren't able to recover, and he kind of sneaks in. Yeah.
And guys are out of position. No one's covering the right guys.
Mm-hmm.
Those breakdowns, those breakdowns kill you over the long run, right? And it's not new. It's not new. That's the other thing. We
talked about that in the game against St. Louis, right? We talked about how those defensive breakdowns were occurring in that game and the game before that against Columbus, which was just a whole other issue. But it's now, like I said, they're starting to become trends, right? These bad habits, these giveaways, these turnovers, these defensive errors, they're turning habitual, and that is not a good thing. That's not what we've come to expect. And they've got a tough test tonight. Obviously, they got the Winnipeg Jets in town, or taking out. No, it's in Winnipeg, I believe, right? Is that out in Winnipeg? I think, yeah. Yes. So it's out in Winnipeg. So you got to go to Winnipeg on the road and take on an undefeated team, literally the hottest team in the NHL right now. So it's not going to get any easier. So certainly going to have to be a lot better than the way that they've been over the last couple of games here if they want to get back into the win column. All right, let's break. Let's come back. We'll get to the good, the bad, the ugly. And I've got a take. I think a reason for why the Maple Leafs have really struggled. I've pulled up a stat that really shows a difference between last year and this year, and maybe why the Maple Leafs offense has struggled. So I'll talk about that also in a little bit. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineup stays in play even if one of your players gets injured or if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return. PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. PrizePicks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and David Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. You can find the podcast wherever you get your podcast at. And you can also find us up on YouTube as well. All right, Dave. A disappointing loss to the Bruins. It's now 3 in a row. We do this after every loss. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly from the game. What'd you like about it, Dave? What was good? Let's talk a little bit of positivity before build it up before we take them back down, brother.
Well, I like the fact that they, after a pretty rough first period, they came out of the second period putting pressure on Boston. Eventually, they got a goal and then they gave up a goal almost not too long after, but they took the lead. It seemed like they were doing the right things. It's just they weren't able to sustain what they were doing right out of as the second period started. So that was the unfortunate part, but also good that they had a bit of pushback.
Yeah. I thought Anthony Stolarz was good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Anthony Stolarz gave this team every opportunity to win the game. He made some pretty big saves throughout the game, so I thought he was fine. He made the initial stop on the brutal giveaway in overtime. But when you give up 2-3 chances like that, that's you're not going to win a whole lot. So, I thought Stolarz had another good game, quality start. It's the most goals that he's allowed, I believe, now as a Maple Leaf in a start. So, hopefully, again, it's not a trend that continues. Credit to the Boston Bruins for the way that they played, but hopefully going forward, we don't see many 4-goal nights on Tony Stolarz, but I thought that he played well. The final goal, the game tying goal, that was good. That is what we're talking about. That is what Craig Berube is talking about, preaching about. Because what happened on that game tying goal, Dave? What happened?
Went right to the net.
Oh, wow. Look what happens. You go right to the net, stick on the ice. You get a piece of basically it was a pass that was intended for a redirection, a deflection, and he gets it, and it goes right through Jeremy Swayman into the back of the net, took the game to overtime. But it only happened because Auston Matthews took a direct line to the net, and there was a really nice play. And that's what the Maple Leafs have been wanting to do. That's what Sheldon, oh my God, if I call him Sheldon one more time, that's what Craig Berube has been wanting to do and wants this team to do. So it's nice that when they play that way, they play direct, they attack the net as they say they want to do. It results in goals. And that's what happened with Auston Matthews there on the game tying goal. Now, he definitely took away all of that goodness with the brutally awful giveaway in overtime. Hence why we started this with Austin giveth, Austin taketh. But I suppose he got 1 point but he also took away a point. So it's very even Steven when it comes to Auston Matthews. What was your bad in this game?
Oh man, I think that first period was just bad.
Brutal start to the game.
You talked about Anthony Stolarz being good. They that game could have been like out of reach in that first period with the way
I think they're outshot like 8-1 or something like that. It just took the Leafs forever to get something going and get anything on net. Couldn't muster up even chances.
They could not get anything, as you say, could not get anything on goal. And that's just, again, it's not the first time we've seen this happen, right? Where they struggle to get chances on net. And so those sort of things you're just like, all right, they had a good pushback in the second period. Where was that to start the game? Because in a way, you're playing catch up. Even though you weren't losing the game, you still had to get yourself up to that level that you should have been at to start the game.
Right. As for the ugly, I mean the giveaway in overtime, like that. I don't think we gotta really dig deep to find an ugliness to that game. That giveaway, horrendous, inexcusable, can't happen. Can't be the captain who makes that mistake that costs the game. Just can't happen. It's really unfortunate, and he's been on the ice for a lot of goals the last 3 games. I think eight goals he's been on the ice for the last 3 games. Like that's not good. He's your leader. He's supposed to be a Selke candidate, and these guys just keep fishing pucks out of the back of the net. It's tough.
Especially he's got the C now, right? More.
Is that weighing on him? Like that conversation is now started. Like I never thought going into the year that it was going to, and I didn't really give it any validity the first few games after you went 3 to start without scoring. I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. We're 9 games in now, and he's yet to kind of find his groove. And I just wonder if it is weighing on him at this point now.
I don't think it is. Personally, I don't think like he's having these struggles because he's captain. I just think that on top of all the other changes, right, and things that he probably has to do and has to probably, like Craig Berube is probably asking him to do things he's, again, not been asked to do before or hasn't really been doing before. So he's struggling with that. Maybe there's a little bit of pressure being the captain, but I don't think it's the captaincy that's the problem. I just think it's,
not that it's a problem. Like that's not.
I'm sure he puts more onus on himself now because he is. I mean, but at the same time, he's been their best player for so long that comes with its own responsibilities on top of that, right? So I don't think because he wasn't captain before that pressure wasn't there. Maybe it's a little more magnified that he's captain, but like I personally haven't seen a lot of people come out and say, "Oh, now that although there was one person in the Discord that says maybe the C is the problem."
I've had that conversation a few times, and leading into the season, a couple people said, like, I think that Auston Matthews is going to struggle because of the captaincy, and they referenced like Luongo when he became the captain, how it was a distraction for him. But I'm like, goalie, like it's a completely different situation. I don't believe it is, but like as we start to get later into the year, and it's like, is this guy gonna wake up? Like we're about an 8th into this thing now, like or a 10th or so into this thing, just over a 10th into the season. Like it's time to get going here, boys. Time to get going. There is one part of the game, one part of this team's offense that's been missing, that has been there for the last few years, that has not been there this year. And what I don't know what to make of it, Dave. So let's come back. I've got a stat for you, and you tell me what you think of it. So let's do that. We'll break. We'll come back, and then we'll also tee up tonight. Leafs, Jets, Toronto trying to snap a 3-game losing streak against a team that's won 8 in a row. Undefeated Winnipeg Jets. It's not going to be easy. We'll tee it up on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano. I can't speak tonight. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. The Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. Toronto in Winnipeg tonight, hoping to hand the Jets their first loss of the season. Going to be a tough task going into the Peg, taking on Connor Hellebuyck and company. Kyle Connor's been shooting the lights out too. He's been unbelievable. Same as Mark Scheifele. He's been great to start the season as well. Obviously, a lot of Jets have. They're undefeated. They're 8-0 on the air. So really, really difficult matchup tonight. But this is usually when the Maple Leafs actually play their best, right? Like when they're not supposed to win the game, that's usually when they win the game. That's the one. At least I don't know if I'm just trying to cling to that, hoping that they put an end to this losing streak. But this is usually when the Buds like snap out of their funk. They have a quality club that's supposed to beat them. They're going to go in as underdogs, and they usually play up to that talent and usually win the game. Like, remember when, was it New Jersey last year or 2 years ago? They're on like a 13-game winning streak or something like that. Like, they had won so many games in a row. And the Leafs were without Riley. They had like a bunch of injuries on defense, and they are the ones who beat them. Like, no one gave them a shot, but they banded together and got it done. I wonder if they can have that sort of success again tonight here against the Jets.
Well, I mean, right now, considering all the talk around the Leafs, maybe they feel like a little, I mean, I wouldn't say extra motivation, but maybe there's a bit of everyone's doubting us. Let's go and prove them wrong a little bit here, especially against a team that, as you said, like, I mean, Winnipeg, they've been a little close. They, hasn't been exactly like an all dominant 8-0. Like, they've had some close calls, but they're also doing a lot of things right to get into this, into the position that they're in. So if you're the Leafs, you're like, this is a good test to show that maybe, a lot of the panic that's come around, ease it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see. I got a text from someone the other day saying, like, asking me if I believed if it was too early to suggest that this game against the Jets tonight, like, the Leafs season is on the line, which I thought was a little egregious. Like, we're a little too early to be calling tonight, like, season altering. Like, if they lose, it's done. The season's over. Pack it up. No, the team still is in a decent spot. But I think it would be good for them if they win the game. I don't think losing the game sends them in a spiral. But if they win this game and they play up and they beat Winnipeg and they put up a bunch of goals on Hellebuyck, that I think could unlock, something with this team. We could see like a volcanic eruption of offense possibly moving forward, have them go on a little bit of a run here, give them their confidence back. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I hope it does. One thing that I think the Maple Leafs need to start doing more, though, and this is what I was getting to earlier, something that they've gone away from that's really been their bread and butter. They've had a lot of success, at least, with this in the past. The Maple Leafs rush chances are way, way, way down this year, Dave. And rush offense has really been something that they've been great at, quite frankly, over the last few years. And I get it. Berube is trying to, put a different element into this team, more dump and chase and, forecheck, force turnovers, and then funnel the puck to the front of the net. and try and score that way, grind goals, cycle the puck. Like that's what they want to do. However, let's just put this on. However, it's been a tough year for that, and they have not been successful at all doing that. They got to get back to getting some rush chances. I was taking a look between the difference between last year and this year, how different the rush chances have been. According to, again, I guess we're going to go ahead and talk and call it 2013-14. So their rush chances this season, they only have 3 players who have more than 1 rush attempt per 60 over the course of the season. Only 3. One of them is Ryan Reeves, which is absurd that Ryan Reeves is one of their highest producing rush guys at this point. That means that no one's creating any offense.
Well, yeah, it's a huge problem because you look at teams that have scored the most off the rush. Like I'm looking at last year, and like the top teams that were scoring off the rush are like, the Avalanche. Oh, look at that. The Leafs were second in rush goals or goals, right? But like a lot of that comes off the rush, being able to do those things. The Oilers are a team that does all the time because as good as you are cycling, as Leafs are good at cycling the puck in the zone, you also have to catch teams off, when they make mistakes. And usually the Leafs are good at that because they're good at forcing the turnovers, right? They're good at the back check. They're good at taking pucks off the stick. And that, I think that's an element that's missing a little bit here, right? Well, I don't know where they are.
There's that element for sure. And I wonder if it's also like there's a little bit too much of an emphasis on defending. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like, typically you'll see Nylander as a guy who the second you have an opportunity to like jump up into the rush, like if you notice that some sort of turnover is coming, like usually he'll kind of turn up ice and then try and get in a breakaway. Like we're just not seeing that. When have you seen a William Nylander breakaway? Like we really have not seen it at all. Right. So it's something to me that the Leafs do need to change. I know that the coach wants, has a bit of a different way of doing things and wants them to be harder and harder to play against. But honestly, this is still a very skilled team. And sometimes you have to marry what you want to do with what the team is best at.
Yeah.
And to me, that's creating some sort of more at least rush offense.
I don't think Craig Berube is totally against it either, because if you want to be a team that's more direct, right, and not as cute, rush opportunities are usually one way to go about it, right? Yeah. That's as direct as you're going to get because you're not thinking about making the extra pass, and things like that. And like you've got guys who can shoot, right? Nick Robertson can shoot. Max Pacioretty can shoot. Auston Matthews can shoot. William Nylander can shoot. Like you have some horses that, they don't have maybe as many as they would like, but they do have guys that are capable of doing it. But they got to just go out and do it. That's the other problem too. I'm not going to say it's a confidence issue because I don't think that's what it is, but it's clear that because so many things are happening right now, I think there are a few players that are kind of second guessing themselves a little bit here, and they shouldn't.
For sure. No, for sure. Like there's definitely a lot of that happening. That's absolutely been an issue. But we'll see. Tonight's gonna be a tough task against the Winnipeg Jets. Something that we didn't talk about actually was the fact that Connor Timmins was a healthy scratch in the game Saturday, and it wasn't Timothy Liljegren who was put into the game. It was Philip Myers. What was the plan here, Dave? Like what were the Maple Leafs thinking when they gave this guy not a 1-year but a 2-year deal worth $3 million annually if they didn't have a spot for him in the lineup. Like, I just don't understand what the plan was for Timothy Liljegren, because if he's not good enough to be your sixth defenseman, what team's going to trade for him, making $3 million for 2 years? Like, I don't really understand. Like, you're telling people loud and clear, this guy can't play in the NHL. He's not better than Phil Myers, who spent the last 2.5 years playing in the minor leagues, playing in the American League. You think Phil Myers gives you a better opportunity than Connor Timmins gives you a better chance to win over Timothy Liljegren? That sends a message loud and clear to the rest of the league that this guy can't hack it, can't get it done. Yet they're supposed to be able to trade him somewhere. I don't know what the hell's going on here, but this is a mess, the Liljegren situation, and the Leafs are only a few days away from being able to activate Connor Dewar and Callie Yarncroc and Yanni Hakanpää, and they've all been skating and practicing now with the team. Like, they're pretty well ready to go, but the Leafs don't have the cap space to activate these guys until they make a trade. And Liljegren makes sense, but like, they're not even giving him a chance to get showcased. Like, if you're an opposing team, I wouldn't be bringing this guy in through trade. For what? Like, why? So I could be saddled with this albatross of a contract?
Yeah, no, I think there's a bit of let's get Craig Berube in here and see if he can fix, or if he can turn Liljegren's game around. But the problem is,
why do you sign him to 2 years? Make it a 1-year deal, and then if it doesn't work, all right, cut bait, we'll move on. Then he's a free agent next year, and you don't have this problem. But now you're gonna have this exact same problem a year from now.
Well, for sure. And the fact that he said it's a numbers game, and it's like, yeah, but it's not like Connor Timmins has been lights out. Like, I think it's more so, I don't think it's a numbers issue. It's he's not doing what we want, and he's not playing well, obviously, as well. But you look at Liljegren's situation and you bring up the contract. It's like, why did they even let it get to a contract? When they brought in Craig Berube, they obviously had talks about a player like Liljegren. Before you sign a player like that, you probably have had some conversations with the coach about what you think you could do with this player, what his role could be. And somewhere along the lines there, the communication was off, because I don't know how you commit $6 million over 2 years to a player, and then the coach is just like,
and then he's sitting in the press box for 8 of the first 9 games.
Yeah, like
that. It's not even like he played his way out of the lineup. He hasn't even played to do that.
And that's my problem too. Is like, you play him one game. Yeah, I know the preseason wasn't good. It's not like he was amazing the preseason, but it's just like,
it's preseason. What can you really get from it? Anyway?
Yeah, but it's also like, it's been one regular season game. Like, I understand you want to push a guy and get more out of him and things like that. Like, I'm watching a Simon Benoit who's not exactly been playing well over these last few games. Like, where are the messages being sent to guys like that who haven't been playing well? Like, there's something more going on here, clearly, because I think Liljegren has deserved at least more than one game to show whether he's actually is capable of playing right in Craig Berube's system.
Well, I don't think he is, and I don't think the team thinks he is either. And he probably knows that he's, on borrowed time when it comes to being a Maple Leaf. It's just whether or not any other team wants to roll the dice. Like, I think he has negative. Like, I tweeted it out the other day, just like, I don't know what the Maple Leafs plan was. Essentially, the conversation that we're having right now, I just threw that out on Twitter, and the amount of people that were like, well, they can just trade him. Who the hell's going to trade for him? Who's going to sign up for 2 more years at $3 million for a guy who can't hack it as a third pair defenseman on a team? I mean, could he, I guess, go play for some crap team? Probably. But, like, do they want to pay him that money? Probably not. They'd probably rather their other young players and give them opportunity to grow into something and only have to pay him a fraction of the cost to do so. Like, that's the reality. So it's not just, you sign him to a contract and then you just trade him because it didn't work. This isn't NHL 25. Like, this isn't GM mode fantasy here. It's real life. And the Maple Leafs might have to get to a point where if they really do have to trade Liljegren, they might have to pay an asset for someone to take him on, which makes zero sense because 3 months ago, 1 game ago for him, you could have let him just walk for free. And because you signed him to a 2-year deal, stupidly, it may cost you an asset. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what the plan was for Liljegren. And even if it was, okay, we think he could do it, they haven't given him a fair chance to figure out if he can either.
So
1 game.
Now my question,
know for sure through 1 game.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You can't know for sure for 1 game. Now,
then what do you do? Put Phil Myers in the lineup. That's your chance to put Liljegren in there.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, against Boston, we know that Boston is not exactly a great matchup for Liljegren. It has been in the past, but again, it would have been a good opportunity for to show that maybe that's in the past and maybe he is different than what we've come to know. Now, the other question is, do the Leafs consider putting him
cross-check Marchand on the face for what he did to you?
True. Like, do the Leafs consider even putting him on waivers? Maybe hope he clears and plays some games with the Marlies to try to at least get him.
They need more. They need the full cap hit gone.
I know they need the full cap hit gone, but I'm just saying, even just to get him playing, right? Like, I don't know what he's learning being in the press box, and like maybe a team. I mean, I don't think a team would take him off waivers. I think that would actually do the Leafs favors, but yeah, the idea of him sitting in the press box just doesn't. It's not going to work because I don't know what works. Like what the end goal is. Really don't.
No, me either. The plan's gone awry, whatever, if there even was a plan for Timothy Liljegren. But we'll see. A deal of some kind has to be made in the next few days because they've got to create some space here to activate these players. And trading Liljegren and or David Kampf definitely allows them to do what they need to do. But so far, neither has happened. We'll see. All right. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You could subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to recap Leafs and Jets. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.